Hey Addicts, we're here for a movie review. I got my buddy Colt.
Hi.
He's in, well, I can't say that because that's offensive to some people. But we are here to talk about a movie that I didn't think we were going to be talking about, really. And that is Escape Room. And I don't remember when this came out. I think it came out earlier this year.
Last week.
Did it come out last week? Oh, yeah, I guess we did see it opening week. And we're going to kind of give you our impressions of it and full review this time.
Yep.
So, you want to start us off to give a little bit of setup work?
Okay, so just kind of set up as I think all of you guys kind of know the popular, I guess you can consider it a fad if you want to, of escape rooms where basically you're locked in a room. It's you, group of friends, maybe an extra person or two here or there who came in, and you got to try to escape before time runs out. Well, in this movie, it takes that to like the Saw level of you have to escape or you're gonna die.
That's always a great motivator.
I would have never expected such a great motivator as you're gonna die.
That doesn't really affect the generation that they trapped, because they're like, oh, whatever.
Kind of. Well, I mean, they also kind of had a plethora of generations, but
they do.
So the main characters of this movie are 6 people that are known as sole survivors, meaning there was like something that caused everyone in whatever accident they were in to die except for them. Yeah. So to start,
it's statistically impossible.
Basically, it is very statistically impossible. But to start, we have Deborah Wool, who played Amanda, who was the sole survivor of an IED attack in, I want to say, Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think.
I guess I never really specified, but
I mean, you guys, if you are a fan of like Netflix shows, you should remember her. She plays I can't remember her character name right now, but she plays on shows like Daredevil and stuff like that.
Yep. And then we had Taylor Russell, who played Zoe.
Yes.
Who was the sole survivor of a plane crash.
Man, that would suck.
Which kind of, you could kind of tell it kind of ruined her life a lot.
She's I will say at the when you're first introduced to these characters, they do at the base level they seem like they fit a certain stereotype, but they actually do a good job of like bringing depth to their character. Because when you first get introduced to her, she seems kind of like the quiet, smart type, but she's she
turns out to be kind of crazy, just a little bit towards the end. Then you also have Logan Miller, who played the character Ben, who was an alcoholic working at a grocery store.
Something like that. Well, he dealt with stamps or something. I don't know. But I think this is actually one that like bugged me because I was like, where have I seen this guy's face before? And I realized that he played on The Walking Dead for a little bit. Yep.
And then we had...
as actually Benjamin, I think. Oddly enough.
We had Tyler Labine?
Yeah.
I don't know. His name... Okay, I remember who he is now. It wasn't coming to me earlier, but... his name was Mike, and Mike was a guy who survived a coal mining accident.
Yeah.
And basically, he was the only one that survived, and he heard his brother take his last breaths, too, which, that kind of had to suck. It was his brother or his cousin, I can't exactly remember. It was one of the two.
It was his brother, I think. And this one also bugged me, because it's like, because he looks so different, but the last movie I saw him in was Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which he's great in that. Wasn't expecting to have a comedy guy in this.
Yeah. The next one is Nick Dodney. I'm gonna butcher that name because I believe he's Indian, not like Native American Indian, but like Indian.
Thanks for specifying.
Some people get confused. Yeah. It's weird. But he played Danny, and Danny was the guy who had done all the escape rooms, and
he was the expert.
It took me a while to figure it out why he was kind of obsessed with escape rooms.
Yeah, his is like, you think he's the most underdeveloped character, but like later on,
you kind of realize like he really was developed pretty far, because what you figure out is that his whole family, except for him, died from carbon monoxide poisoning from being trapped in a room. So escape rooms are his way of kind of coping with things.
Yeah,
which that's kind of cool.
And they don't like overboard it with like telling you that. It's like just subtly implied, which is nice.
It's really nice. And then you also have the last guy, Jay Ellis, who, no offense to this guy, but in the movie,
he's an asshole.
He was just a dick throughout the entire movie. But at the same time, when you kind of figure out like why he's that way, he really believes in that whole survival of the fittest kind of thing.
Yeah, which I mean, we spent a little bit of time like going over each actor specific or actress too, but it was mainly because like a lot of these like even though they have some work, I think they're relatively unknown or they're just not as popular in terms of like other actors and actresses, and we just kind of wanted to highlight that because the acting in this movie is actually something that we weren't expecting it to be really good.
If I'm perfectly honest, like I was sitting here thinking it to be like Bye Bye Man levels of bad.
Yeah, or like Slender Man level. Well, maybe not that far, but I was thinking it wasn't going to be much better.
Yeah, but you know, surprisingly, I don't know if it was the low expectations. I don't know if it was like kind of going in there with no expectations at all. But it was actually a really good movie for what it was. Like, I was not expecting to like it. But then again, I am a fan of the Saw series, so that probably helped a little bit. But, you know.
Yeah, because it's kind of got that similar vibe of, like, you know, Saw or, like, Cabin in the Woods or even, like, kind of The Cube is a very similar premise, but it's done way better. It's, I don't know, there's just a lot of things going for it. I think for me, the real thing was just how sound it was. They're looking back on it, there's really very few instances that even have any merit of just being as unbelievable. Because, like, really, there's only one thing that I particularly got a little bit annoyed at, and it was them taking jabs at gamers, which, it's like one of those things, it happens in movies. But, I mean, other than that, really
like,
the only thing that's...
And, like, I don't even really have a complaint about that too much.
Yeah, because it fits the culture.
Well, not as it fits the culture, but you could kind of tell when they had Danny talking about all that stuff.
Yeah, he did come across as that.
He kind of came across as, like, you know, that nerdy kind of guy who's kind of like, oh, I know better than everyone because I play video games and I've gone to the hardest escape rooms in the world. And you know.
Yeah. I feel like the only place that I could see where, you know, somebody has like a legit complaint maybe is just where, you know, when they're invited, they do believe the scenario pretty easily. Of course, until things start happening.
Not only that, but I was watching. So I like to watch like other like reviews of movies, and something else that kind of came up in a review I was watching this movie specifically was they all knew that they had to open the box.
Yeah.
But they didn't have instructions of open the box. They all just kind of knew, oh, we can open the box.
Yeah, I'm just, I do love the fact when they are showing that, the one guy, Ben, he just kind of chucks it at the wall and it opens a little bit.
It was really funny
because that's how I would do it.
Not only does he throw it, he goes, you gave this to a guy who didn't even pass 8th grade math. And I'm just like, damn.
That's actually something that I was really surprised about. It did have elements of comedy, but it really wasn't bad at all.
No,
or overdone.
And not only that, but I think like all the characters really fit their roles.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, okay, they kind of specify that. It's like they had their certain roles and you can kind of tell.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, they didn't fit the mold perfectly. They were, like, they could kind of mesh and kind of be different places all at once.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, I think, like, at least in this type of movie, it's one of the very few ones, at least in recent memory, where I've actually been invested or even cared about all of the characters. I mean, well, except for, like, well, even, like, the guy that we said is kind of like an asshole, he's still interesting in, like, his story and just how he fits in towards the later part.
Yeah, just a little bit of a spoiler warning here. So anyone who doesn't want to hear a spoiler warning, skip ahead, like, at least
a couple minutes. Yeah, a minute.
Minute or two. Because in the movie, it kind of implies that this guy, the Jason guy, he was in, like, the Arctic with his friend or something. They were fishing in a boat and a wave hit them.
Yeah.
And he says that his friend swam off because he had been drinking seawater. If you don't know, drinking the seawater will kind of make you go a little bit nuts.
As it does.
But it's also kind of implied that there's the possibility, since he does believe in survival of the fittest, that his friend was killed by him. And I thought that was like really good implication of this man is possibly actually insane.
Yeah. Especially in this dire circumstances, because it's like, and I love how it like subtly does this, because it was like it made it into a conversation like off camera of when we were talking, like, you know, is it really him being, you know, like depicted as they say, like, oh, he actually killed his friend, and if he did kill his friend, is it? I like how they play it off as like if that is the case, it's believable in the sense of why he's being this aggressive in this scenario, because he's done it before.
Yeah.
So it's easier for him to escalate. But I just like that part. They're really, now that I think about it, the only thing, looking back at the movie, and even at the beginning of the movie, I was kind of like, this is an interesting choice to do, is having the forward in time and then going back. I don't really, to be honest, I think it was kind of a giveaway of certain people's death. I mean, obviously the people are going to die in this show.
Yeah.
But also, I just was like, I didn't really see any impact for it, showing Ben at the beginning and then going back. Other than that, like, I think if you take that out of the movie, it actually makes it a little bit better in terms of like watching their journey through, because
But at the same time, it kind of leaves the suspense of like, well, what if someone actually survived or something like that?
Yeah, like I do agree with that, because it's like one of those where it's like, I think going into this, it's really hard to not make it predictable of like, there's at least going to be one survivor. So in essence, it kind of helps throw you off a little bit, like, oh, well, maybe nobody survives. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I think depending on either way, it's still fine in the movie. You know, I think that's just one thing. Like me personally,
No,
I've
I
been
would
okay
agree.
if it was cut.
I would agree. But really, other than that, I don't think there's really too many things I can complain about in this movie. The acting was on point.
Yeah.
I will say definitely my favorite character was Amanda.
Yes.
Because I think she
she's
really
pretty
played.
cool.
I think she really played her role of, you know, I'm kind of scared of fire because of the whole IED accident. I'm like, yeah, you did that really well, and like, I don't know, like I honestly didn't have too many complaints about this movie. I think, honestly, I can see why the critics rated it the way they did. But personally, I would have given it a higher score. I'd personally give it like at least an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, it's the same. It's like a gotta have it. It's mainly just because, like, just looking at it, like, not comparing it to the genre it's in, just looking at it as a movie in general, I think that's a really spot-on way to depict it accurately. Because, like Colton said, the acting's good in it. The story itself is pretty sound. I mean, obviously, there's a couple things that, you know, you just take into consideration. But, you know, for what it is, I think it stands really well. The one for me, in terms of like actors or actresses that really stood out to me, was the woman that played as Zoe. I just thought her performance was really great, and just seeing how she starts off, you know, as a certain way and then ends at a different point is something that, you know, just shows the spectrum of her acting. But yeah. It was actually a really surprising movie. I mean, we haven't watched that much movies since, you know, the new year started, but I would say it's definitely one of my favorite movies that I've watched in the last like 6 months.
I can definitely agree.
Yep. So I guess that concludes this. You guys go check it out if you haven't. It was a lot better than we thought. So we got to give credit when credit's due. But anyway, guys, that'll conclude this review, and we'll see you guys next time. Later, Addicts.
Don't let your memes be dreams.